Hey everybody, welcome to your unpaid therapist.
Hello, welcome to another episode of your unpaid therapist.
I'm not getting paid. I didn't even get a donut.
Oh, that's sexy though. I like it.
I'm Valerie Milagros Ortiz.
I don't know. I am your host, Ali Kona. She's away. Brad Ford.
This is your unpaid therapist. Shoo-wah, cha-cha. Get it on the floor. Get it on the floor. Who hit the floor? James LaRosa did, today's guest. Now, this was the first and only time Val and I decided to use AirPods for our mics. Not such a bueno idea because I have really tiny ears and they kept falling out. So bear with us. My sound gets a little distorted here and there, but James LaRosa sounds amazing and crisp, and he does most of the talking, so you're good. Either way, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Let's get to it. We're back, you guys. Boo-boo.
We never left. I can literally pick up the story right where you could just do a little slice and then whoop, there it is. But I was saying, I'll just dive right back in. But I was saying I was fortunate to be sitting there with these like powerhouses in my old boss's class, and they're all telling their stories about like how they came to be. And one person joined Second, like Catherine O'Hara, I think hers was like Second City, and had these famous friends, and then this other guy is like, I happened to meet this person at this place, and like everyone, their stories were so like they're such wows. And my story was so not, because the career I thought I would have when I came to Hollywood was I would show up, I would razzle dazzle, and I would just be on the track and off and running. And it was stops and starts and like really feeling like, what do I want to do instead? Maybe, I don't know. I never really considered that fully, but it was just like, it took a while from when I started to getting to where I thought I would be. And so now I don't know if it's irony, but the kids that I was talking to really responded to that story, because that was pretty much, that's like more common. Like everyone is like basically trying to swim in shit and get it figured out. But and how that relates to what we were saying, I believe, is you can feel a certain way about how things are going, and if it's not going the way that you want it to. But at the end of the day, if you just sort of focus on the thing that you want to do, and it's genuine, like if you really feel like this is what it is, then you just accept the fact that there's going to be like shitty times, and that it has nothing to do with you. And are we still into the same gotta wrap up soon, or was that just because we had that?
That's
We had that. Oh,
yeah.
okay. I wasn't bad.
Keep on talking.
No, because because what I would like to do also is give some love to Val, and in a way that I think flows in what your sort of mission statement is. Because, for instance, the same thing that is true of writers is true of actors. You have no idea why somebody would cast you or not cast you, and it is really, and I like to believe that I'm empathetic, and so anytime anyone comes in to audition for me, I always feel like I always want them to be the one, because nobody wants to sit there and meet 7,000 people and whatever. But also, I always felt like, thank you so much for coming in, especially the dancers, because you didn't just have to, here's my scene. But you're right. But also, now I have to do a dance routine for you. I have no idea. We've never met, and now I'm going to put on this little outfit and fucking dance around the place. And what, like, you're giving up your time, and it's also LA traffic, so it's like it takes you forever to get there, and you just do this thing, and almost every actor that I speak to feels like, what did I do wrong, or what didn't work here, or what, any of that stuff. Sure. But honestly, when I it's just only speaking of myself, but when I write characters and I have people in mind, there's absolutely what's on the page, but then there's stuff you can't put on the page. Like, in my mind, this person was so much like my cousin, and she had this sort of way that she sort of drawled, or who knows. So if somebody comes in, you just go, that's the energy, that what I was thinking of. You can't have every energy. You can't walk into the room and go like, and be like, oh, I'm all things to all people, and it's purely talent based. It is so, you can never ever ever take personally why someone gets hired or why someone doesn't. Like as a so Val was up against uh a couple of other
Dances, honey.
a couple of other yeah, yeah,
A lot.
we'll
I
say
just
sure.
remember. Well, I
Well, you were up
remember
against a lot. I'm just saying in
a
the
lot.
final cut,
Well, during
everyone
the
you're up,
test,
yeah.
I remember being in the lobby and like, like I didn't know the trajectory of where Raquel was going to go or whatever. But like the girls are all like stretching their legs are on the wall, doing the splits and stuff like that, and I'm all like, oh my god! Like every time we had another audition, like I got a note to like change my little dance routine into whatever something different. And I was like, oh my gosh! And so it was one of those things that you do because you know you're judging. And now we have Zoom, we have like these tapes that we do. We barely go in the room anymore, but
Which sucks.
I know it does. It really does. And I was just like, oh man, like you start comparing yourself for being like,
Well,
I can't do a split. I can't da da da.
well, what sucks about the Zoom is kind of related to what we're talking about, which is I really like, I hate to say vibe, but I really like pay attention to the energy that I'm getting.
Yeah.
And again, it's not something that you can choose to bring the one that I respond to, but or whoever responds to, but you can't really tell over Zoom if someone's a nightmare, but you can tell in
Mm,
person. You can tell in person if someone's
mm.
kind of a little standoffish with the person who's running the camera.
Oh,
Or,
sure.
you know, it's like you can't
Yeah.
really everyone can shine in a, you know, whatever. But so,
Right.
but for you, your final because you I mean we auditioned every single person who could do like a fucking tap dance, like anyone who do like anyone who ever did the electric slide at a wedding came to the room. And with you it was funny, I do the person who you God, her Melissa Fumero from uh Brooklyn Nine, what is, oh my God,
Is
Brooklyn
it
Nine
Brooklyn
Nine.
Nine-Nine?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. She was made the final cut for Raquel.
Okay.
And and it's not like, oh, one person's better than another, but what we
Right.
had in you that was so really quite wonderful is you really are sort of, I don't know if anyone's told you you're luminous before, but you would be the kind of person like your scenes with Jaden, with
Mm.
little Miguel, you can't really
Miguelito.
you can't fake like maternal. You can't fake
Mm.
like nurturer. You can't fake like that kind of energy. And your energy was just so wonderful. And we were so happy to have you. But we were lucky that you had, like, it wasn't like we
Mhm.
went, oh, like
We need to.
you just never know. You just never know. So
Mm.
as a writer, it's almost a little easier to blame yourself as a writer because you can go, ooh, like did my script not like did my script suck?
Ah, that's interesting.
But when I hire writers, there is sort of a tone I look for in that as well. So and sometimes people could like sometimes people well yeah sometimes people could be like really incredible procedural writers and they could like nail the beats, but the conversations feel a little stilted. Who knows? Anyway,
Yeah.
um, if you're
It
feeling
was so
down
fun.
about
Like,
yeah.
no, yeah, it was just so fun. I think all the characters too, especially like, you know, and I was thinking like somebody like Kat too. Like she walks into the room and she like owns Kyle. Like everybody was, I think they were just so well written in a way where the people who brought those characters to life, it's just like, yeah, that's totally Asha. You know, it's like, I don't know, everything just felt like it fell into place, but obviously, you know, maybe it didn't because you guys, I don't know, it's just so magical. That part to me is magical.
Well, and it was a puzzle putting it together. In general, everyone that we had, everyone I wanted, I got, which was great. But you never know how people are going to do in like sort of the final hurdle. And the
I love
other,
seeing Logan's Asha audition.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
because
that was cool.
in another world you could see her being Asha.
Mhm.
It's just not just not this one. But do you know who else tried out for that was Ashanti? And I was
Oh,
like,
cool.
I was like, Ashanti. Wait, I was like, Ashanti might be a little old for Asha, but it's a great audition, whatever. But and it was nice to see it. I was appreciative to see it because I was like, Ashanti, oh shit, like that's that's some good, that's a good. But the other woman who was up for Kyle was a completely different like energy. Like she was sort of the true soap opera version of Kyle. Like Kyle really, as written, sometimes could come off as like a bitch. Like you would be like,
Sure.
don't want to be around, especially in the pilot where she's just like, I'm a stripper and this is the way how like if someone did her part. I'm going to tell you a funny. This has nothing to do with. I want to tell you though. But basically, we realized that Cat would really, with the energy Cat brought, would kind of. So it's like a puzzle, and whatever. But I just want to. This is just in the. Do you remember? So we were shooting in the first season. You could, if you were a director, you could see the pilot, but you couldn't see the series. So you never really knew what we were doing and the tone that we were going for. And so
Okay.
our
That's a
director,
cool note.
well, so our director was Daisy. I'm gonna like say their names, but it was Daisy. And so when we got I remember, and if you remember, I was always there. Like I was always like every scene, but there was one day where I had to go scout some like locations, and so I had to leave, and so I wasn't there to guide anything on set. So when I got the dailies and also the cut for that episode, uh they didn't really know what the show was going to be. I knew what the tone was, but they didn't really. And so in that first cut of that episode, the takes they chose, when I tell you, Kyle was the villain and Yelena was the comic relief. I
Stop
was like,
it!
it was so funny the way
Oh
that they
my
had
God.
all the takes that they
I
had of
wish we
Yelena
could
were
see
very
that.
like I have it somewhere, I'm sure, but it was just like,
That is
and you know how like
amazing.
the music cues they add, the
Sure.
takes, like you guys go out there, and it was just I watched it and I was like, what other
You're
takes
like,
do
what
we
did
have? Like, because I,
what did
I
they
was like,
do
no,
in the
no,
show?
I was like, this is not Yelena, this is not, and then once just like, oh, okay, and we could like share it, then they could flip it around, and then the episode was great. And I know the episode
That's
was the calendar
funny.
episode. The calendar episode was that one. But anyway, so but all that is to say, you can't blame yourself because you don't really know people are after, even the people that work for you to give
Yeah.
you that don't exactly know. So anyway, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that worth logging back on for?
Literally, but I love that.
Um, Well, I mean, we have extra time, so I don't have like we're not rushed, but I do like what's this? Like what's happening?
Um,
Like
I will
what are
tell
you doing
you.
right now, by the way?
Talking to you, and what am I doing? Oh, you mean like in just okay. So well, so the ring is I'm not engaged. But I have a wonderful, wonderful boyfriend who gave me this ring, and as like a promise.
Mm.
There you go. I don't know
Cool.
but there's a story there as well, but I'll spare you that one. But he's adorable. He's always much kind of like the two of you, very positive and always smiling. And it's really nice to be with someone who you don't have to sort of life coach and generate the happiness for. And not,
Mm.
this is no slam against people that I've dated in the past. It's not like as if it's a by comparison, but having somebody now who is I just love his attitude and I love his sort of there's just his energy is great. And I met him in 2021. I keep going back and forth in like back and forth to Europe. And so I was like, you keep doing this, you're gonna meet someone that lives there. And sure enough, I did. So now this back and forth must continue. But his name is Alejandro, and
Ooh,
he's wonderful. Uh,
I'm
and
so
uh,
happy for you.
well, thank you. I'm happy for me too. He's great. And
Isn't that the best?
yeah, and so but but how in terms of like what I'm doing now, it's like being in Europe this much was not part of the plan. But I was like, I loved London. And so I said, you know what, let me go for a couple months. And that was the beginning of 2020. And then, plague hit. and everyone was like, "Oh, how am I going to be helicoptered back home from all like over the world?" And
You're like,
I
I
was
ain't
like,
going.
I know. I was like, well, if all we're going to be doing is like one walk a day in our neighborhood,
Hmm.
I was like, I'll stay here because I can like look at like, London buildings and whatever. And then the longer I was there, the worse COVID got here. And then also there was the election and, all these like crazy things that were going
Sure.
on that I was like, and everyone I knew here was like, don't come back. I was like, okay. So I wound up just staying longer and longer because I could, like, I managed to like sneak my way into Italy. And then when your Americans weren't supposed to be there. So now I've kind of, uh, I wouldn't say I've pivoted, but I've definitely, uh, uh, what's the word? Absorbed into my life. That's not the right word, but it just allows me to move forward with this thought.
Hmm.
This other reality of like, I'm in London quite a bit,
Yeah.
and I'm in traveling around Europe, and I'm basically going between here and there. And the one thing that has been positive about 2020 is that even though it has allowed for self-taping, it also allows you to Zoom your meetings and your pitches and your
Yep.
podcasts and everything else. So
That's right.
I moved to LA specifically because this is where you had to be to do my job, and now it's not
And now you don't.
necessarily. So floating around the world, Alacona, that's what I'm doing. And I'm working on these sort of random projects that are always in secrecy. And I always have to say, I can't tell you right now, but ooh, right around the corner. And then something. So when you ask me what I'm doing next, I'm gonna say, ooh, I can't tell you right now, but ooh, right around the corner. But yeah, writing and very excited about stuff that will hopefully um, uh, be gearing up after what one hopes is a shorter strike.
Yeah. I love
Mhm.
it.
I mean, I have questions for
So,
y'all, but I don't think it's for a podcast. Go ahead.
ask away. I don't know. Maybe later.
Now, I was about to dig way deep into your like dating lives because I'm getting like words on the streets. I'm getting this, that's, and the other. So I feel like I need an
Ooh.
update, but this might not be the venue that you want the update.
That well, the folks know. I have a boyfriend, and I've been having a boyfriend. I know her status hasn't changed, but yeah, still asking
Mhm.
on my end.
I have to send you pictures and all this.
Oh yes,
I'm
he's
getting, let
not.
me tell you, uh-huh.
He's not social media out there yet, but yeah.
Oh, but not okay. But he's like on social media, but he's just not, you're not like putting him, he's maybe like appeared slightly in a story, but he's not been main page.
Yes, 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 yes.
Mm-hmm. I see how that works. That's how you tiptoe in.
Uh-huh, exactly. Yeah. But
What's his name?
David.
David. I won't ask you his last
David.
name.
Yeah, no, but I'm so happy. We were talking about this before too. And even that, just I mean, it all goes with pivoting and changing and where life takes you and where you thought it was going to be and where it's not now, but how much better. And I told Ali Kona this too earlier. I was like, the really beautiful thing about life is knowing that it's just really knowing that like no matter where it changes, like it's always been good, and things only have gotten better, like truly, like, and not that there hasn't been shitty moments and been like, oh, this sucks or whatever. And as you know, because we've shared some similar stuff with breakups and long-term relationships and whatever life.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's really exciting to like once those little humps or those valleys or those things happen, you get to the other side and you're just like, huh, this is why. It's like,
Yeah.
and that it feels so good. Can you
Well,
see
a
her
lot.
radiating right
I mean,
now?
she's always radiating. This one's like a power station, but it's what feels good is a lot of times there are things that we know that we should do, and then we're like, we
Yeah.
don't do them for a whole bunch of reasons. And once we do them, because frankly, in my case, sometimes I'm just forced to, like, okay, I'm going to do this because I have no choice, not because I suddenly got this like well
Yeah.
of like strength. But once you get on the other side of it, you're like, oh, either I could have done that a lot sooner. I survived and it's great. But you're choosing, unless you're demented, which we know you're not, the decisions that you're making aren't like to hurt yourself, like they're to like be
Sure.
happier. And so no matter what happens, you are going to be on the other side, like following your instincts. So it's gonna feel good.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do. Breakups are hard not just to survive, but to initiate. Like,
Oh yeah, especially, and I always say this too, especially when things aren't really, when nothing huge is necessarily wrong. Like I always said, I was like, it's almost easier, and I don't at me, y'all. Like I'm not asking for to be cheated on or whatever, but like it's almost, I'm just gonna say it because this is my truth.
yeah.
At the time, I felt like it's almost easier if somebody would do me wrong or in a really big way, just so you could just be mad and be like,
Right.
"What?
Yeah.
Move on," you know?
Yeah.
But when it's not that situation and it's more of like just the alignment's off, you don't want the same things, da 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 da. It's really, really hard to leave a situation that, or leave a person that you're still in love with. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's tough. Like, woo,
Done it.
woo,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, yes. So
It's
like, yeah, so to be in your room and be like and know you chose that life, but you know eventually you're gonna be better, you know, but it's just like, dang, that
I
takes straight.
there's well, it's there are but there I don't want to like in this case I don't want to name names because it's their story, not mine. But there is someone that you and I both know, and maybe you can figure out by the story, I don't know. But like she was in a relationship that was kind of like the one you're talking about, which was it was good, it was fine. There were like, people fight and whatever, but it was like
Mhm.
you could see how like where the good stuff, how like why they got together and where the good. And when she ended that relationship, I remember thinking like, oh, like I don't know if I would have done the same thing because there was more good, at least from I was sitting outside of a
Right.
relationship. But the relationship she got in next was so insanely amazing and gave her every hope and wish and dream and afforded her this like beautiful
Yeah.
family and this man that really cared. Like it was like you can have something that isn't quite where it could be. And if you don't trade on the thing that you want, like I was so
Yeah.
inspired by um, her being bold enough to make a decision to go, you know what? 70% isn't enough for me. Whereas for me, I'd have been like, ooh, might have been good for me. I could maybe fill in. And so, but watching her do that was really inspiring. Not everyone who's gonna like do some giant move is gonna like win on
Yeah.
the other side. That's the
That's
risk. Like if
true.
you're like, you might break up with
That's
70
true.
and get 55 for the rest of your life and be like, oh shit, I should have stuck
Dang.
around.
I
But
know. That is so
anyway, but yeah, no, it definitely it's so much easier to have somebody be like a psycho who's gonna either cheat on you, hurt you, whatever those things are, makes you go, oh, that's a chapter. That's
sure.
punctuation.
Yes,
But when you
and
get
thank
like
you. Yeah.
right, but when you get the comma with the like
Mhm.
everything is generally then it becomes like a total for me anyway, it becomes a total head game. Did I
Yes.
do the right thing? What are they doing right now? Are they eating a sandwich? Like what like you just get into the
Yeah.
whole sort of
It's so
mind
much
fuck of
easier
it
to
all.
second guess yourself. It's in the beginning of it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
but look what happens. I mean,
I know.
you're in a wonderful relationship with David, no last name, who will see sometime. When do you think, as your unpaid therapist, when do you think we might, not that being on your main page of a social
Right.
is like a definition of something, because we are all with somebody or know someone who doesn't even have it and they're fucking living their best life, and
Yeah.
that's probably why. But like, when do you think, if you think that person might appear on the main page?
Probably like this summer. I don't know, sometime soon. I don't know when. I mean, we have photos and all the little
already did the photo shoot. We just gotta post it.
pretty much. Yeah, I don't know. Sometime soon.
Okay. I
Yeah.
asked that question. It's sort of like, when are you going to have a child? It's like, I don't like that question. I feel like that's a similar. When are you going to do this? But like, bitch, why does it
Yeah.
need to happen?
Yeah, no, and I mean it's not, it's so funny because it is a thing, but it isn't a thing. Like, social media and like making things official, but do you need to, but you not. But I like to. I mean, I love posting, and I love love, and I when it gets to that point, you might be like, can you stop posting about you and your it might be the opposite, like shit.
Well, some people are like, don't rub that in my face. And you're like, it was one
Right.
picture, damn. Well, so,
Well,
and
I'm
now
gonna be
Miss,
rubbing it in. Let me tell y'all
yeah.
something.
Well,
Let me
now,
tell yeah.
I think
I'm gonna
Alacona,
be
this
doing all
hair,
the posts.
do all the pose, the puppet theater.
I'm
Well,
gonna be
so
so excited.
I feel like this hair color for you is gonna do some magic. I think this is a great color for you.
Thank you.
I like
How
that.
long has this hair color been? Because you swap it around like Rainbow Bright.
I
You
know. I
do.
feel like I've had it for a year at
Uh-huh.
least. It was really red at one point, and then I decided I wanted to look like sunshine.
Yes.
And look, okay, as an actor, you pay like $600 or something stupid to get headshots, and you're like, you know what? It's gonna stay. It's gonna stay for a little while.
Yeah.
But
I love it.
I like it.
There you go. Magic.
I see something's gonna happen. The
Oh,
magic hair.
I'll take it. I'll take it. All that
Yes.
juju.
Yeah. Wow. First of all, thank you. Like this is, I mean, you say energy about everybody else, but your energy, obviously, even through Zoom, is just so infectious. It always has been, and you're just super brilliant. And I remember saying this during Hit the Floor too. It's just like, and everybody's like, we love working on the show. Everybody who came and like just guessed and just saw our stuff, they were just like, it's so. I've never been on a set like this. I'm like, it starts at the top, and I know you've heard this before, but I'll say it again for anybody who hasn't heard it. But it really did, and like you really just cared with your whole heart. And I know that sounds corny, but it really was like that, and you really still are that person. So all these things that are happening in the London and all the things, I'm so happy for you, and thank you
Well,
for coming on this show and talking to us.
I normally might deflect what you said, but I'm just gonna take it in and say
No,
thank
that's
you.
good. Yes, that's it. That's what
Yes.
you got to do. So we end the show with a quote, and I found this quote. I don't know. It obviously what we were talking about, and I thought it was interesting. And it says, "A pivot is a change in strategy without a change in vision." And I thought that was nice. So sometimes you just kind of have like the vision doesn't change, the end goal doesn't change, but
Hmm.
just the way you go about it.
Well, and
I like it.
as people who are artists like you two are, I sort of feel like that's sort of a necessity. You have to flow with how you
Mm.
flow and wind up where you wind up, which is a freaky thing to do. We're basically freelance people, so it's a
That is
scary no net, but
so scary.
I want to just piggyback off of what you said as far as James. We're gonna fill you up with compliments.
Hmm.
Because I was take it.
Yes.
Because I was with AfterBuzz for 8 years, and this was the one show where literally every single show, someone from Hit the Floor was always coming in to guest. You every single year were so, yeah, I'll come in, yeah, I'll come, and it's so unheard of, like to be so willing to do all the things and
Generous.
come in, and you really did bring so much playfulness and fun to all the after shows that you came to. And this one time, this is how nice James is, you guys. Because again, I'm always like, let me create my own shit. So when I first met you, I was like, this dance travel show. And it was so like homemade DIY, but you sure did meet me on the lot of, I think we went to Paramount and we had
I love
coffee.
it.
I was taking you to coffee, but you paid for it anyway. And then when it was done, James was like, I have to go back to work, but you can stay on the lot as long as you want, taking the energy and have fun. And I was like, and I sure did too. I just walked down the streets in New York.
I love it.
So
Well, going to AfterBuzz was always super fun because you guys knew what you were talking about, you were invested, and having a conversation like that was. And Val, I feel like you and I would like. I remember you and I did it together once.
Mm-hmm.
I remember some crazy times in that little room, depending on the number of people. I remember once we had the entire
We had
cast
a
in
lot of us. Yeah.
crazy shit that went down. So it was always fun to go, and you're always wonderful to talk to. And I think the pair of you are a wonderful podcasting team. And I think you feel like you're where you should be. So thank you so much for having me. And
Yay.
it's always my pleasure, no matter where you pop up. If I'm nearby, it's always a good time.
Yay. Well, thank you,
so
thank you, thank
much.
you. Thank you, everybody, for listening, watching, all the things. And yeah, See you guys later. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.